All right, we're back. This is part 2. Let's get into it. So now we're gonna curl the petals. There's 4 different techniques that we can use to curl your petals. So the first technique that I use often is using a soldering iron. I'm not gonna do it for this tutorial because this is not a common tool that you guys are gonna have regularly. These are kind of hard to find with the flower tips on them. You can find soldering irons everywhere, but it's all about these curved tips. So for instance, this special tip, I can heat this up and it gets very hot and I roll this around and it just curls this beautifully. But we're not doing that today. I want you guys to be able to have all the tools at home. Another way you could curl your flower petals is with a mini straightening iron. And again, I go over a lot of the tools in my tool video, so if you haven't watched that, sometimes it helps to watch that too. So the same thing, you heat this up. These are small and cheap and you can't control the temperature, so it's hot. And then you just grab the petal and roll it back. So I'll do that here too. And then just roll it back and it curls the petal around. This isn't on, so it's not actually doing anything. So another technique I use is I will grab kind of like a metal circular object. This is just an X-Acto knife, but it's metal, so it's cold. And what we're doing is we're wanting the glue to hyper cool. What I do is I will grab my glue gun and I cone side up because we want it to curl back on itself. So I will put a little bit of glue in kind of like a wiggly motion right there on the edge. Grab my X-Acto knife or whatever you find that's circular and metal, put it on there and just roll it and kind of hold it. And what the cold metal is doing is it's cooling off that glue quickly. Pull it off and you're using the glue to self make a curl. So we got a curled edge. So you would repeat this step all the way around. You kind of need to work fast before that glue curls off. Really hold it, wiggle it, rip it off, and now you got a nice little curl there. We're gonna do it again over here. Just hold, pinch, and kind of rip off, and it just gives it this very curled edge. Real quick, safety tip. If you're using an X-Acto knife specifically, pull the blade out so you don't accidentally stab yourself. I'm pretty proficient with it, so I avoid that, but just in case. All right, next way, you're gonna take a piece of parchment paper. I'm grabbing different scissors. I don't like cutting anything that is not fabric with my fabric scissors. So for this purposes, I'm grabbing just utility scissors. So I'm gonna take a little bit, just cut off some, probably cut this in half. You're gonna grab one of your 18 gauge wires. So we're doing the exact same thing as the X-Acto knife, basically. Same concept, we're gonna put a little bit of glue, but this time, instead of using the X-Acto knife, we're gonna put the parchment paper. You gotta work quickly while it's hot and just roll it around your wire and hold until it's set. Just hold it for a few seconds. Rip off your parchment paper. You've got a curl. So this is the method I have in your kit, but you can use any of the kits that were there. All right, so if you notice, depending on how tightly you curl using the X-Acto method or the wire method, we can get tighter and different curls. So I'm gonna go ahead and take this crinkly part off and do it again. I'm gonna put the parchment over the glue. Oopsie. Wire and roll. And just kind of hold it. So the glue is what actually is holding the felt in place. You're gonna yank that off and you've got curls. This is fun too because you can kind of really control where your curls are. You can put curls wherever you want, and it's just a fun technique to add to multiple of flowers. We're just gonna hold, pull your wire out, pull your paper out. So you got a bunch of nice curls on this petal. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and do the rest of them and then we will get ready to assemble. Okay, so I got all the petals curled. It is a little tedious, but take your time and do it right the first time. Okay, next we're gonna get our felt ball, and we're gonna get this, I don't know, half circle piece? More half oval? This one, the smiley face piece. Okay, so now we're going to add glue right here. We're not gonna go halfway, so if this is our halfway point, we're gonna go jog over maybe like a 1/4 inch and then put glue from here over and right at this edge, just at the edge. So we're gonna do right there. Okay, so now we're gonna make a cone shape out of this. So we're gonna fold this side and wrap this side with the glue on top. So it makes a cone. So I got a little too much glue on the edge. I'm just wiping it away like that. So you kind of cone. So first time first, get used to that fold, the doing that motion first, just so you fully understand what you're doing. For some reason, my brain every once in a while, I'm like, wait, how do I turn it to get that cone? So just be sure to grab the 2 long ends, fold over to make a little cone. And the reason why we have that half circle is to get rid of all this bulk underneath it. But the goal is to make a cone. So this is the center of your flower. So it's not necessary, but because I like things pretty and perfect, I cut that off to make more of like a circle cone. We're gonna grab this and put glue around the inner edge of this. So I'm gonna rotate and put glue and grab our felt ball and just plop it right inside. So it's a ball with a hat. So the ball helps just give the flower something to sit on. It gives it more density and just something to grab onto. You gotta glue to something. And then this cone is hollow, obviously, so you need something to glue onto. All right, I'm gonna pull that aside, push those aside. I'm separating my 2 flowers. I've got my smaller ones and my larger ones. And I'm pulling down these guys. These are our smaller 1 by 1 1/4. So I'm gonna separate them all since I cut them double, and we're gonna work in 3s at this point. If you notice any flower design, everything's usually in 3s. So you're gonna do 3 petals and then 3 petals, 3 petals, 3 petals. And just kind of rotate down. And you're always gonna meet them right in between. So if these are your 2 petals, your next one is going right in between. All right, so we're gonna grab our first petal, and I put glue kind of high up. So you want these ones to be kind of close. So I always start with this seam. Just loop it right on there and close to the edge and tight on there. Like a rose, it's tight in the center and just opens up. So you're gonna grab the next petal, and again, we're working in 3s. So we're gonna overlap it just a little bit, fold over and kind of do the same thing. And this next petal is actually pushing that first petal in a little bit closer, and that's what we want. We want the rose to kind of feel like it's unraveling. So we're gonna grab our next petal, do the same thing, throw some glue down. We're gonna cut this flower a little bit on that side and then overlap it on that side tightly until you have a center. We're gonna do the same thing again, but when we do the glue, we're gonna do it a little bit lower, not so high, because the rose is now opening up. We're gonna place it right at this seam right here. Throw it on there and fold it over. Now I like to slowly work the flower down. So if you see right here, this was my last petal. For my first layer, my second layer is just a little hair lower. It doesn't look good when it's all flush. So you wanna kind of bring it down just a little bit. So we're gonna grab the next one, and then we're gonna overlap We're gonna find the next seam, and we're gonna put it right there. So again, glue not too high. Kind of grab that and push on. Gonna grab our next petal and do the exact same thing. Throw some glue, find that seam. So if this one doesn't fully overlap any, not a big deal. More important, hitting this seam and cutting these in half than you are overlapping this next layer. Because again, flowers are organic. They're not all perfect. Give yourself a break and some credit for doing a good job, because you're doing a good job. Next, we're gonna grab our 3 smaller ones. The 2x2s. I'm gonna grab the first one. So I'm gonna show you how I place it first before I put the glue. So we're not placing it like dead on straight. If you can see, it's not like perfectly flush. We're not making it perfectly flush. This is not what we want. We actually wanna rotate it a little bit. Let's see. So it feels weird, but the rotation is coming down. So it is not flush and it is curved. Hope you can see that. So this would be flush. We're rotating it down. So again, we're splitting that seam to make it between the two petals on the second level. So we're gonna put glue right on the edge. Grab a seam and we're gonna rotate it down. Just like so. And grab another one and then I rotate it this way. On the high point, that's where you're gonna do the next layer. Same thing, rotate it down at the next seam, just like so. I'm gonna throw some glue on. And do it again. So this is part you can kind of make it more opened by fanning them out more. You can make them a little closer. You have a lot of say on how your flower looks. Okay, so for the last one, you wanna kind of tuck it in your first petal so that they're kind of overlapping. So same thing with having a high side and coming down, but tuck it in. See if you can kind of slide it underneath the first petal you did. So put the glue down, and we're just gonna slide it on. All right, so there we go. So if you wanted to, for future projects too, you could even stop here and make a little rose bud. Just have a little smaller version next to your larger version. So kind of right here, you can have like this kind of coming off to the side. You've got now a little bud next to your big version. All right, that's the end of part 2. So follow along to the next video to catch part 3.